difficult to win finals matches. And this fellow is certainly going to help them. John Elias, South second row. He's only 21 years of age and he's been one of the buys of the season. He was a Canterbury junior when he went to, following that he went to Newtown. He played the 83-84 season in France. Then he joined South Sydney in 1984. His deceptive sidestep and strong defence should be a feature of the game.
No, brothers.
There's the brothers scene coming onto the field now, led by Trevor Bailey. Good effort from Bailey to captain this side, full of plenty of experience and good players, and Bailey, of course, one of the most respected players in the club. Very good side, this brothers side, and that's one of their better players. Robert Grogan, he's 24 years of age. He's a centre for brothers. He started his football career with North Aspley. He joined brothers as a 15-year-old and played his junior football with teammates Shane McElwain and Trevor Bailey, and of course reserve grader Craig McAlpine. He played Queensland under-18 football and he chalked up his 100th game in the last match of the season. He's enjoying his best season ever.
Right over the top of the tree. Got him. White jacket.
Oh.
Okay.
Referee for the match is Eddie Ward. Tim Dwyer of Brothers to start play. Brothers on the left, running from the southern end of the ground against a northeasterly breeze in this the first half as it goes down to Belcher, the fullback. Now Souths are the favourites. Brothers 3.5 point start. We can just overhear from the crowd in the outer.
Probably a fair indication too, this one, Arthur, that point start, because South, as I said, they've got the experience there and they've got those big men, and we saw in the match the last time they played it was Meskel and Phelan who really took it to the smaller brothers pack.
And that's Phelan taking it up then. South's about 15 metres out from their own line. Not a strong breeze, but nevertheless they do have the assistance of this northeasterly breeze in the first half, with Gary French, the 5'8", putting it over the halfway mark, and Joe Kilroy making the first mistake of the game, and that was an expensive mistake too. Knock on to be played.
Yeah, no advantage there for South. Once the ball was kicked by Peter Jackson, he had the option either to try and pick it up or kick it through. Joe Kilroy making at the moment. They played 5 times so far, these two teams. Brothers have won 2, South 3, and significantly Brothers have won both finals, the semi-final in the Woolies and the semi-final in the State League.
And this is Foster, Brothers halfback, 10 metres short of the halfway mark. Tim Dwyer in the centres into the dummy half position and across to the giant Trevor Smith. Had an excellent season, this huge front row forward. Penalty.
Of course, we see plenty of penalties in Sydney football these days for players holding down. And Eddie Ward, we haven't seen a lot of him at Lang Park this season. He hasn't been the #1 referee. David Manson has been considered the top man for the job. Let's have a look at it again. There's Chris Phelan, barely just holding down Trevor Smith, and the penalty eventuating, and let's hope that Eddie Ward is consistent.
And Dwyer's kick takes play about 10-12 metres inside South's territory. Bailey, the captain of Brothers' side, as they have one of these moves set up everywhere, with the dummy flying through comes the winger Klein. And that was a set move, obviously, and it nearly worked for them. Certainly picked up a few metres, David.
Worked to perfection. All they needed was some backup for Klein. He did his job by going through the line.
Foster, across it comes to Smith in the 5'8" position. Dwyer's there, but well and truly wrapped up just outside South's quarter line. Bailey's in the dummy half position for Brothers. Across it comes to the second row forward. Flying through is Gary Smith. 3 Smiths in the Brothers lineup today, but not related. There's Smith, the 5'8", to the halfback, and in the front row Ferguson. Ferguson, as the ball comes back again to Foster, flipping it straight on then. 6 tackles to go as it comes on then to McElwain. McElwain up to the quarter line and manages to unload the ball. Fight for possession, but it's Bailey's ball. 6 tackles to go again for Brothers. Little luck going their way at this early stage of the match. That's Chris Roach in the second row forward to Smith. Well and truly wrapped up by Elias and company. Out it goes then, further outfield, and it's Brothers about 28 metres out from South's line. Now, Across this time to Roach.
Brothers doing well to keep the ball alive, and they've really got South stretched already.
Bailey, and onto the ball comes Ferguson. "22 metres out. Bailey, Smith, Roach, and that's Grogan in the centres. And running onto the ball is the lock forward, Dan Staines. The final tackle, 18 metres out from South's line. Back to Smith. Greg Smith's kick. Well taken by Gittins and then forced into touch.
Well, what a tidy start from Brothers. They made that one mistake when Joe Kilroy failed to handle a kick downfield from the Magpies, but since then their handling has been immaculate and they've had the South defence under pressure.
In the earlier matches today, the third grade, the major semi-final, Brothers defeated Souths by 24 points to 12, and in the reserve grade semi-final, Brothers defeated Redcliffe 10-8. So Brothers are on a treble here today.
Good effort from the club there. Both the C and reserve grade, of course, going straight into the grand final in 2 weeks' time.
That's Kilroy up in that dummy half position. Interested to get into the action very early in the game. 22 metres out from South's line as it comes to Foster. Further across then to Ferguson. But Ferguson's had a very good season with Brothers. This is Henry Foster. Ferguson's moved around a few clubs in his time. He came from Wests originally and then went to Norths and then moved on to Brothers.
He is having his best year too, and he's got more inclined to do a little bit more defensive work. He always used to be a little bit wide in defence.
This is Grogan. Meninga over the top. The little halfback Cullen was underneath. That was Mel Meninga over the top and a pretty crushing sort of a tackle. Now Greg Smith. Belcher's underneath it and takes it well, as he does in spectacular fashion, Gary Belcher. Only a metre out from his lines. It was vital for him to hold that one and injured in the tackle.
Bad luck there for Gary Belcher. Of course, he's had a couple of head knocks earlier in the season, and it's to be hoped that he hasn't copped another one.
Belcher restarts play. That's Wallace, Paul Wallace, the winger in the dummy half position, with plenty of Brothers defenders to put him down. Eddie Muller's there, the hooker for Souths. One of their very valuable players, the former North Queensland player, of course, Muller. And now Norm Carr, slipping the ball onto Tronk. Scott Tronk, the 20-year-old, 18 metres out from his own line. Now to Cullen, longer pass then to French and getting his kick in and bowled over. But
yes,
taken by Kilroy.
Definitely a penalty there. Gary Smith it was who came through and took Gary French out of play, and Eddie Ward didn't miss it, and he's calling up Gary Smith now. I think it was Gary Smith. There's Gary French, recovered okay. Here it is again. Definitely came in late and high. Gary Smith would want to be very, very careful that he doesn't do another one of those. And even worse, of course, that's relieved a lot of pressure for the Magpies now, and that's got them down inside Brothers territory.
Peter Jackson's kick takes play about 12 metres inside Brothers territory. Muller is there, now Meskel, and slipping a short pass to Jackson. Jackson, another, well, dummy was on. I thought it was going to the 5/8, but he stayed with it himself on Meninga. Here's Meninga now getting his pass away to Gittins. Gittins, the lookalike for Mel Meninga, over the quarter line now, so 20 metres out. So South's looking pretty smart on the few times they've actually been in Brothers territory in this game. Across to Cullen, Cullen to Elias, and John Elias voluntarily tackled Brett Ferguson over the top. Now Phelan, Chris Phelan, very experienced player, of course, spent a few seasons in the Sydney competition with Parramatta. Muller slimming it back now very quickly to Norm Carr, trying to spear through, only about 3 metres out from the line. Cullen's into the dummy half position for the Magpies. Now it's a penalty.
Well, Eddie Ward is being consistent. Of course, we saw a similar penalty going to Brothers a little while ago, very early in the match, and Brett Ferguson there on that occasion, stopping Norm Carr getting up quickly, and an easy chance for Gary French. Here it is again. There's Norm Carr struggling to get to his feet, and Ferguson still hanging on to him, trying to make sure he gets up first. And of course, Brothers were in trouble there, and it could easily be 2 points for the Magpies.
You keep on side, Eddie.
Gary French attempting this easy penalty kick, has kicked 60 out of 83 attempts this season. The breeze behind him, French's kick, and the flags are up, so the Magpies take first blood, leading 2-0. Tim Dwyer restarts play after 8 minutes with Souths leading 2-0, down to Gittins, left winger for Souths. Both front rowers involved in that tackle, and the first one in there was Roach, the second row forward. Now here's Mescal. He's the powerhouse front row forward from Souths. Not that Phelan isn't pretty powerhouse too. Across it comes to Jackson in the centres. Jackson breaks that first tackle of Dwyer's, but tackled 22 metres out. Cullens in a dummy half position. French getting his kick in. Over halfway. A difficult one for Klein, and a very tricky one. Finally gets to it.
Inside the 5, yes. Those players, just because the ball had bounced around and taken a little bit longer to get to Klein, were never onside. And as soon as Russell Klein dived on the ball, they dived on Russell Klein. Penalty to Brothers.
Yes, John Elias was the first man in for the tackle. So we'll see Tim Dwyer take this penalty kick for the line. Beautiful day at Lang Park. A few clouds about, but the ground bathed in sunshine, and the ground, in contrast to last week, is very fast. That kick finds touch 18 metres out from South's line. South's leading 2 points to 0. Trevor Bailey, the captain of Brothers, to take this second kick to Foster. He gives it to his 5'8", to Foster again. The run rounds on, and this is Ferguson coming through. Brett Ferguson, 18 metres out. Bailey dummy half position. Foster the halfbacks there across to his 5'8", and dummies on as it comes back to Roach coming through, or Staines. Staines, it is the lock forward. Foster, Smith, and Grogan. Longer pass then to Dwyer, the outside centre. A good low tackle from Cullen round his ankle stopped his progress there. This is Joe Kilroy, full-back right up there, and that right round the ruck. Now to Ferguson. Ferguson to Foster. Jackson was the first man in for that tackle. This is Bailey, Smith, and here's the big man Smith, Trevor Smith, bursting his way through the front row forward, just about through. Meninga coming in to lend a hand to the tackle to stop that movement of the big man Smith. Back it comes to Smith, the 5'8". The last tackle's on now. Loose ball, Brothers ball. Foster, 6 tackles to go too as it comes to Roach. Slipping it back again. Ferguson's there. Ferguson looks for the support and gets it back again to Roach. Straight on then to the lock forward, Dan Staines. Staines tries to find a gap in South's defence. So South's under a lot of pressure, leading 2-0. Bailey's into the dummy half position. Across to Foster. Foster sends that long pass out wide now to McElwain. McElwain changing position, zips through and finds the gap, and McElwain has scored the first try of the match, and Brothers go to a lead of 4 points to 2.
Gary French and Norm Carr appealing for an obstruction there, but it's no use appealing for it. Shane McElwain wrapped in that, and because it was just too easy really, they had numbers out here. It was 1-1 out here, but it was Shane McElwain who cut back on the inside. There was a couple of South players there appealing for an obstruction, but I don't think there was any doubt at all that McElwain was nowhere near it. No one was obstructed, and Brothers have scored a good try. And they've been applying plenty of pressure early in the match. It was 1-1 out here, and it was a long pass, that one there from Henry Foster, that unsettled the South defence. There it was, the cross back on the inside. No one obstructed whatsoever, and a fair try to Brothers.
Tim Dwyer attempting the conversion, 10 metres in from touch on the outer side of the field. He's kicked 46 out of 72 goal attempts this season. Tim Dwyer has to allow for that northeasterly breeze coming across the line of flight. There's the kick. It's a good kick. It's coming back with the breeze. Beautiful. Coming back against the breeze, and it's 6-2 to Brothers. Gary Belcher restarts play for the Magpies, running from the northern end of the ground in this, the first half, as it goes down to McElwain on to Kilroy. Joe Kilroy showing his strength and determination, 18 metres out from his own line. Henry Foster's in the dummy half position, half-back for Brothers, and gets the pass back to no one, but eventually picked up by McElwain and tackled by French, and also the half-back Cullen in there, and Tronk in to lend a hand, the second row forward. But Bailey's into the dummy half position. Across it comes to Trevor Smith. Meninga was the main tackler, or the first one in there. Across it comes now to the second row forward. Just about had his head taken off Gary Smith. Accidental, ruled the referee. Watts, Dwyer kicking across over the halfway mark. Here's Belcher, the fullback, up towards halfway. Dan Staines right round the ankles. Foster in there as well. Now Kittens. They call him the Mel Meninga lookalike. He certainly does look like Mel at a distance, doesn't he?
And of course he's going to have to do the job for South next year, because Meninga has signed with the Canberra Raiders. He signed last week.
Now Costa Cullen. Cullen sending it to Norm Carr. Couldn't handle it. Loose on the ground. Picked up by Gittins. And the referee saying play on, because the Brothers player had touched it after that. Well, there might have been a little bit of luck there, David.
Yeah, I think that was a knock on to South. Should have been a scrum.
John Elias. 12 metres, 13 metres inside Brothers territory. Brothers leading by 6 points to 2. Out to French. Back it comes and put down by the hooker Muller. And it's a Brothers ball.
The difference between the two sides at the moment, South's the ones making mistakes and Brothers aren't. Brothers' attack has been very good, but there's a sloppy play the ball. The Magpies back in possession.
Muller. 30 metres out from Brothers' line. Muller to play it back. It's Chris Phelan in the dummy half position. And showing all his brute strength, Phelan, over the quarter line.
South's getting some easy territory near the middle of the ruck.
Muller. And here's Meskel popping it back to Phelan. 6 tackles to go too. Look at Phelan breaking one tackle and another one, looking for the support. It was Tronk that was flashing up alongside of him, but he couldn't get it away. French in the dummy half position. Cullen's there. There goes the little kick across the top, the chip kick. Flying through. Grogan picks it up to save the day. I think it was for Brothers, but he saved the day, Grogan, as it was Jackson flying through for Souths.
South had that set up. Here it is again. They'd had it set up before the tackle count had restarted, so they still persevered with the move, and I think it was just a little bit premature. Good work from Robert Grogan to clean it up.
Tim Dwyer restarts play from the goalmouth.
That's one fellow I wouldn't kick to.
Yes, Meninga. Brothers leading 6-2. 24 metres out from the line. Souths have got another chance. Cullen, Meskel. Muller. Across this time, John Elias stepping, beats that tackle too, and gets away. Good strong run from Elias, 10 metres out. Gary French dummy half to 5'8". Muller's out there. The hooker standing wide, slips it onto Tronk. Tronk tries to break. Yes, does break through. One tackle, gives it to Jackson. On it comes down. The fullback, Belcher, trying to fly through, but driven into the corner. A good covering tackle.
Great cover defence from Brothers, and I think it's Greg Smith who's injured now. Of course, that's his forte, Smith. His cover defence, he does a great role for Brothers, and it was Gary Belcher there. There's a little pass from Jackson. Looked like Belcher could have made it. Chris Roach and Smith. Smith, the first man to the tackle with the assistance to Joe Kilroy, takes him out a couple of metres from the corner post.
Penalty to South from the scrum, not in straight.
Now Brothers with their chance now to repel a few attacks from the Magpies.
Peter Jackson kicking the ball backwards to give Souths just that little bit more room to manoeuvre. Brothers have scored the only try of the match, and they lead by 6 points to 2 as it comes to Muller. Now Phelan, after kicking the ball backwards, then they charge it up and get back where they were before.
Makes you wonder.
8 metres out. Switched across then to Cullen. Cullen getting it back to Meskel. Meskel really hitting it at his top, but runs into a swarm of defenders, including Smith, the second row forward, and switched across this time. Tronk getting it back to no one, picked up by onto John Elias now from the hooker. John Elias cross field, but not making any ground. French. Now the halfback's there. Here's Jackson.
Good defence from Brothers.
The Brothers moving up well and moving up very quickly. This is Muller. Muller getting it back now to Peter Jackson, the centres, but can't get the ball away. Brothers' defence is very firm. The final tackle there. Here's the bomb from French. Kilroy's coming through to get underneath it. Loose ball on the ground. It's loose again. Bounced out of the way. Kilroy was just there to pick it up, and that was a bit of luck.
Oh, that could have gone anywhere, and it went straight into the hands of Joe Kilroy, who was sitting on the ground after Shane McElwain had done well to take the ball initially, and it was a heavy tackle from the Magpies that jolted the ball free. Here it is again. Perfect bomb from Gary French. South all onside. McElwain and also Brothers get back well to support McElwain. That's very important. Can't leave that guy stranded. He had plenty of support. A few of them went up for it though. Kilroy, and then it was McElwain who took the ball nicely, took it out of the grasp of Belcher, and then it was a heavy tackle that jolted the ball free.
Now Meskel it is who runs the ball up and ran into a pretty powerhouse tackle as he ran into big Trevor Smith, the front row forward, who's taller and probably bigger than Meskel. This is Jackson breaking through, and Brothers' defence pretty soft then, only about 12 metres out from the line. Jackson really packed them there. Across to Cullen. Cullen sends it on to Tronk. Tronk. Souths could really smell a try coming up then as Tronk was pulled down about 12 metres out from the line. Cars there, on now to Muller. Muller trying to make his way through, still 10 metres out.
They want Mal Meninga involved. He hasn't really been involved in the attack yet.
Roach was the first man in for the tackle. There's Elias into the dummy half position. On to Cullen, further out now. There's Meninga. They're looking for the short pass to Tronk alongside, but couldn't unload.
Meninga was walking then. He's got to get back and run onto it.
Muller. French. And up goes the bomb on the final tackle. Kilroy's there and pushes the ball dead. Took a bit of a risk doing that as Souths came flying through, particularly Belcher.
Yeah, very risky that one because Joe wasn't too far over the try line. It's okay if you're pretty close to the dead ball line, but he had to knock that one back a long way. Let's have a look at that. What's coming down right under the post, and Kilroy knocks it dead, and only just.
Brothers restart play. 20 minutes into the first half, down to Belcher on halfway mark. Gary Belcher, a good run, but a good tackle from Grogan, a good wrap-up tackle, certainly stopped him in his tracks, didn't it? This is Jackson.
Bit of indecision there, Arthur, from South. They don't seem to be as positive as what they normally are in attack.
Across to Cullen, Meskel. Well stopped, Dan Staines, a good low tackle of Meskel, assistance from Ferguson up top. Muller. Muller. Unable to unload. Again, Roach was the tackler. Cullen, 22 metres out. Again, there's a little bit of uncertainty there, just waiting to see what was going to happen. It was Norm Carr coming up alongside. Cullen, French, and across to Jackson, and then further out to Belcher. Here's Belcher in the line, then, but dummied as it looked as if it was going to Gittins outside.
Should have
stayed with it.
Should have given it, although Greg Smith was in good cover defence to cover Ken Gittins.
10 metres out.
That's the
last tackle. John Elias is there, across to French, and there's that little chip kick from French, and following through too. And Kilroy has it, and tackled, put to ground, and so it's another dropout from the goalmouth. Brothers will be glad to get away from here.
Yeah, well, the referee taking a report now from the touch judge because Gary Smith was once again knocked down after he kicked the ball. Trevor Bailey, the captain of Brothers, getting a lecture, but no penalty. Restart from under the sticks.
18.5 minutes left in the first half. Brothers leading by 6 points to 2. Gittins. And Gittins tackled 30 metres out from Brothers' line. That's Tronk in the dummy half position. Now the fullback's right up there to Meskel. Back it goes to the fullback. Ball lost. And South's making just a few too many mistakes. Not lucky to get away with that one. Across to Cullen. Switch back again to French. Tried to make that gap. It was Roach that got to him to put him to ground. And that wasn't marked, so plus playing the ball forward.
Ferguson.
That's a penalty.
Yep. Inside the 5 metres, Brett Ferguson. If you're going to mark, you've got to be standing right up on the player. Of course, he wasn't. Penalty to South, an opportunity now for another 2 points. Here it is again. Gary French had played the ball forward, and there was Ferguson, definitely inside the 5 metres. However, he was in line with the play the ball, but of course you've got to be right up on the marker.
Gary French has this one set about 18 metres in from touch, not that far off centre. The breeze behind him looks pretty good. And the flags are up. The Brothers are leading South by 6 points to 4. Tim Dwyer restarts play for Brothers, running against this northeasterly breeze in the first session, leading by 6 points to 4. This is Belcher.
The game's really been played in two facets, really. It was Brothers who did all the early attacking. They got up with a try after around about 11 minutes, and then it's South who took over the attacking from there, and they haven't yet been able to cross the Brothers line. They've only been able to get 2 penalties on the board.
Out to Cullen on the blind side. There's Jackson in the centres, and slipping it back again to Tronk. Yes, well, he finished with it anyway. And there's Jackson. That long kick downfield. Pretty good kick from Jackson, and well taken Klein. Brothers left winger, Russell Klein. He's got Kilroy with him. And there's Joe Kilroy. Starts to pick up some pace now, Kilroy, but pulled down about 15 metres, 14 metres short of the halfway mark. McElwain's in the dummy half position. Dwyer's there. Greg Smith, the 5'8", further across to Grogan in the centres. Grogan tries to fend away from the tackler, but gets it on then to Dan Staines and lost ball.
So you can see what Brothers are intent on doing, though. When South kicked downfield, they were keen to spread that ball, and they almost had an overlap out there as well.
Tronk.
Brothers very intent to get that ball out, and we've seen that already. There's some pretty strong defensive efforts from Jackson and Meninga, and they've been called on to do a lot of defence.
Strong run from Norm Carr, the captain of Souths, across to French, and offside play with a penalty to South in front.
We've had plenty of press during the week about Ross Strudwick stating that South are the ones who have been standing offside, and he's obviously made Eddie Ward concentrate more on that, and this time he's picked up the Leprechauns.
Gary French attempting this easy penalty kick in front, which should level the scores at 6-all. With 14 minutes remaining in the first half, French's kick, and the flags are up, 6-all. Tim Dwyer to restart play. Penalties favour South, 5-2 at this stage of the match, and this is Meninga. One of the few times we've seen Meninga in possession, just outside his quarter line. Muller. Smith the tackler, Trevor Smith. Meskel. Now French. And looking for the support alongside, the short pass and got it away. Plenty of tacklers in there with Jackson. Now Phelan. Chris Phelan about 8 metres short of halfway, still in South's territory. Cross to French, kicking it across to the line, taken by Klein. And Russell Klein tackled by Paul Wallace, his opposite winger, just short of the halfway mark.
This time South inside the 5 metres.
So a penalty to Brothers. Close to halfway, the score 6-all. Brothers have scored the only try of the match before this crowd of about 12,000 people in fine, fairly warm conditions at Lang Park. It's a beautiful day. Tim Dwyer to take the kick.
Both wingers have come in behind the play, and actually Shane McElwain has swapped wings with Russell Klein, and Russell Klein standing behind this wall once again.
So it's Bailey to take the second kick, And the moves on as it runs around the front there. You almost put that down as a shepherd, wouldn't you, that sort of play?
Yeah, well, it could be if they obstructed the defence, and of course they're getting it done just early enough.
McElwain to Ferguson, 30 metres out. Bailey, straight up the middle.
South, of course, the best defensive side in the competition, and Brothers have got the second best record.
Phelan was the first man in for the tackle, and Tronk was the other one over the top as it comes to Foster, then to Roach. In the second row, Chris Roach. Can't get away from those defenders, too many of them there. Foster, Ferguson. Good low tackle in, French up top, and Tronk was Chris Phelan underneath. The final tackle, Foster. There goes the bomb. Belcher's underneath it and pulls it down well as usual. Belcher. Plenty of pressure there too with Tim Dwyer, one of the first Brothers players in there. This is Gittins, but can't get away from a good tackle from the second row forward, Gary Smith. Now Peter Jackson. Jackson, a good run now on that blind side, leaving one tackler behind. I think it was Smith, the first one he beat. Second rower. Wallace's pass across to the halfback and Meninga. Crunch straight up the middle. Phelan just held that one. So Chris Phelan outside his quarter line. The score 6-all. And running from dummy half is Muller. That's a handover now for the 6 tackles.
Eddie Muller looking up in disbelief, really, and really it's up to him to make sure that he's aware of when the tackle counts on.
Across it comes to Foster, further out to Kilroy. Kilroy starts to club on the speed now over the quarter line, but pulled down. My Jones, he showed some speed then, the usual zip of Kilroy, and the ball has been knocked on by Kilroy.
He showed some pace. Kilroy committed himself to go all the way, and Norm Carr's been injured in the tackle. And he's caught one in the just above the left eye by the look of it. Very groggy, Norm Carr. Eddie Ward intent on packing the scrum down. Here it is again. Joe Kilroy went all the way then, and then just lost the ball as he went to the ground, regained it again, and the scrum is to go down. Good push from Brothers. Loose
Brothers again. Ball. That's Dan Staines, a lock forward. Plenty of blood flowing from Norm Carr's eye, all right, that left eye, the lock forward, and Captain's he's left on the ground there after that scrum, still feeling pretty sick. Across it comes to Smith, further on to Dwyer in the centres for Brothers. Tim Dwyer getting his pass back as it comes on to Roach, the second row forward. Then to the big man, Trevor Smith, and didn't quite know where to go. 22 metres out. 6-all the score. Bailey, Ferguson.
Strange thing there, Norm Carr knocking back attention from the strapper, but he's very reluctant to get back in the line.
Foster. Further out to Grogan. Grogan now is only about 10 metres out from the line, but pulled down. Plenty of tacklers in there, including the injured Norm Carr, one of the tacklers in there. Across it comes to Foster. Further out then to Dwyer. Dwyer tries to see that gap that wasn't there between South's outside players. The gap certainly, if there ever was a gap there, it closed pretty quickly. Across to Greg Smith. There's the 5'8" for Brothers putting it up. Bouncing everywhere. And finally picked up by Gittins, who lost the ball. Picked up by Brothers, who had been put down neatly by Foster. And that's the second
knock on. Eddie Ward decided it was a knock on. It looked like he was going to let it go at one stage. I even thought that he did signal play on, but I think it was the play on from the initial pickup from Belcher. Let's have a look at it again. The high ball, and there's been always a certain amount of indecision every time bombs have been put up by both sides. That was Muller, knocked it back to Meskel. Meskel took the risk to throw it to Gittins. The ball was knocked forward there, and it was decided that Henry Foster had knocked it forward. No try.
Yeah. Scrum packing down with Norm Carr limping back to the scrum. From the scrum, it's a penalty to Souths.
It's a pretty tough decision, that one on Brothers, because Norm Carr, who's been injured, wasn't in the scrum, so there was no way that the South push could be on. The penalty has gone to the Magpies for Brothers moving off the mark. Norm Carr gaining attention. He looks like he's in real trouble. He's copped that one in the head, but also he's got a leg injury.
So the penalty kick for the line takes play about 25 metres out from South's line, with Norm Carr still receiving attention behind the play. Across it comes to Meskel. Crunch! And Meskel, didn't he really power into Gary Smith, the second row forward. Now this is Phelan. This is the power of South's front row forwards, Meskel and Phelan. Lumby's warming up on the sideline, so it looks as if there's a fair chance that Norm Carr might have to leave the field. He's getting to his feet slowly behind the play. Up towards the halfway mark now as it swings across to French, and French send that longer pass out wide to Gittins. Gittins back into Jackson just over the halfway mark. Norm Carr's not leaving the field. He said, I'm getting back into the play, but he limps now as he comes running back towards the field of play. Switched across to Meninga. Meninga straightens it up. Slips a short ball back then to the halfback coming through alongside of him, Cullen. And it's Cullen on the final tackle put down. There's French's kick, but the ball rebounding off a Brothers player comes back down to Belcher, and Belcher starts to run immediately, and it's 6 tackles to go. Well, that's luck for South. Carr still looking pretty sore as he limps back towards their lineup. This is Muller. Less than 30 metres, 28 metres out in the line. Phelan. Souths are showing a lot of ruggedness in their play. Muller, Cullen and Meninga. Pushes away from a couple of ineffectual tackles. Then it comes to Elias. Elias straight on across the fullback. Belcher gets away from another tackle. It didn't make much of an effort to tackle him, that Brothers player in there, but only about 12 metres out. Brothers tackling's pretty soft, David.
Yeah, they're not committing themselves to the tackle.
Across to Mescal. Mescal slipping it back to Meninga. Meninga gets away from one standing there. Couldn't get away. Held by the leg. Said, OK, it's your ball, Norman Carr. And the final tackle's on. Meninga's in the dummy half position. Will they put up the bomb this time? Cullen. And there it goes as it bounces off a player. Picked up by Kilroy. Kilroy's picked up by French immediately with assistance from Elias. So Brothers in possession. Score 6-all. Ferguson's up into the dummy half position. There goes Brett Ferguson, but caught by Gary French. McElwain. He's got it this time. 6 tackles to go. John Elias gets to McElwain. We look at the clock and we see about 5.5 minutes left in the first half. The score all tied up. And here's Klein, the winger from that far side for Brothers. Left winger over here near the right wing. Bailey, Ferguson. Can't get away from Tronk and company. 22 metres out from his own line. Trevor Bailey, Foster, Greg Smith, and Dwyer sending the pass back again to Staines. Lost ball, picked up by Meninga, but yes, I thought the referee was going to rule another knock on there. Well, obviously wasn't. So it's Big Mal Meninga to play it back. Muller, French, switch back to Tronk, down the middle. Good tackle from Smith, the first man in there, Trevor Smith. 28 metres out from Brothers' line. Muller. Muller decides to have a run over the quarter line, back to Tronk. So the forwards making good ground. South's forwards looking pretty good this last 10 minutes or so in the game. Across to Cullen. Cullen looking for the support, but no one there just at the moment. Second rower, Elias. I'll have a run myself. Eventually stopped by Dwyer, and over the top came Ferguson. Last tackle. The hooker's in there to distribute to French, and up goes the kick. Off the side of his boot partly. Pines underneath it for Brothers and holds it. And so it's a drop out from the goal mouth for Brothers.
Brothers absorbing plenty of pressure. It's been their 2 front rowers have done a mountain of work already in defence, both Ferguson and Trevor Smith. And it's an indication there of how close to the ruck that South have elected to play it with Mescal and Phelan taking the ball up.
Dwyer drops out 4 minutes before half-time. Mescal. Not to have balanced by Dwyer, and then it was Foster and company, Roach, who put him to ground eventually. Here's Cullen. South determined to go up the middle, a little halfback, certainly put his full weight into the lock forward Staines and halfback Foster. And now we've got front rower Phelan. Making good ground all the time, South. It's only 10 metres out from Brothers' line. Could be some indication what's going to happen in the second half. Here's Muller. Muller crashing through. Can he get the ball down very close? Yes, he's got the ball down. And Muller has scored. And South hit the front, leading by 10 points to 6.
The South have been relentless in their intent to get that ball up the middle of Brothers' ruck. They must feel that that's where their South strength lies, and of course they must feel they also has a defensive weakness in the Brothers' pack, and that's being shown up because they've made a lot of ground up the middle. As Arthur has just said, Chris Phelan has strolled away from the ruck plenty of time, and just about every time picked up the 5 metres. Have a look at this from Eddie Muller. That was 10 metres out from the line. Trevor Bailey ran beside him. That's not good enough from Bailey, and Joe Kilroy didn't hit with his shoulder. He just grabbed at him, and of course, Eddie Muller very, very keen to get the ball across. Have a look at him. Darts away from dummy half. Clears the marker, and that was Trevor Bailey. Trevor Bailey should have committed himself to the tackle there. Ran beside him, and then when Kilroy came in to make the tackle, it wasn't with the shoulder. It was only with the arm, and Muller just made it.
And Gary French attempting this conversion, 15 metres in from touch. He's kicked 3 out of 3. We've got 2 minutes before half-time. There's French's kick, way to the right. And so the score remains at South leading 10 points to 6. Tim Dwyer restarts play. Taken by Carr. It looks as if he's made something of a recovery from that bad knock he took a short time ago. Now Gittins from dummy half.
It's just easy territory there, and Brothers markers are going to have to work a lot harder to cut off the dummy half.
There's Muller. Well and truly wrapped up by Gary Smith, the second row forward. Cullens up into the dummy half position. Now it goes across to French, further across to Jackson in the centres, and tries to fend away Foster but can't get away. And no one not being marked, so just runs forward and then kicks it downfield, and but out on the full.
One of the faults South have had in this game that I don't think they've done everything to plan. There's been a couple of impromptu things that have been done. That was one certainly there where Jackson thought he might be able to clear it straight downfield. South haven't looked probably as well organised as Wayne Bennett would have wanted.
20 seconds left in the game. Brothers ball as it comes across now, and the referee blowing the whistle about South's up offside.
He must stay behind the last man in the scrum, and of course this is a gift 2 points here for Tim Dwyer with only seconds to go before the half-time hooter. Of course, not a gift 2 points, a differential penalty, and Brothers forced to kick for touch and undoubtedly put the bomb up.
And Dwyer finds touch on the quarter line. Souths are leading by 10 points to 6. Foster. There goes the bomb. Gittins. Foster well taken by Ken Gittins, and just clears the line. And that's it for half-time, with Souths leading by 10 points to 6. 1 try to each team. In the goal-kicking department, French has kicked 3 out of 4 for Souths, and for Brothers, Dwyer 1 out of 1. In the scrums department, Brothers have won those 3-0. The tight heads go to Brothers 2-0. The penalties to Souths 6-4, and the scrum penalties 2-0 to Souths. No changes in the second half. Norm Carr is suffering from an injured shin. Right. He came good all of a sudden.
Right here.
And South running from the southern end of the ground, and this is the second half, leading by 10 points to 6. And don't forget, at the end of the competition, or at the end of this match, we'll be showing you some of the best tries scored this season. So don't forget to have a look at those and get your entries in for the try of the series competition by Friday of this week. And there's the kick-off as it goes deep into Brothers territory, and Shane McElwain, the winger, in possession. Kilroy's up into the dummy half position to have a run. Tackled by Norm Carr, well and truly, legs taken from under him. That's the hooker's pass across then to Ferguson, bursting through off the half-back. Brett Ferguson 30 metres out from his own line. Tim Dwyer. High kick. And trouble for Gittins and into touch. So it's a good start for Brothers.
Yeah, just the start that Strudwick would have been after. Let's have a look at the defensive efforts of the respective sides in the first half. And there's the South's tackle count. They've only had to make 49 tackles in the whole first half. Meninga and Jackson, they're significant. Meninga and Jackson, two of the top three tacklers, and it means that Brothers have been hitting out wide for most of the first half.
Brothers ball. Across to Smith, the 5'8", further across to Grogan. Grogan across field, straightens it up and sees the gap. Belches across, it gets it on to Klein. Klein losing the ball backwards and recovery. Good strong play from Brothers out wide, particularly that run of Grogan's, 22 metres out. Across to Smith, further across then comes to Roach. Then to the half-back and Ferguson standing out wide. And outside of him was Trevor Smith. Two prop forwards out there. That's Smith into the dummy half position, having a run from there.
There's the Brothers team total. 83 tackles they've had to make. If you remember, South had only made 49, so Brothers have had to do far more defence in the first half. And big Trevor Smith's made 12 along with Chris Roach, and Dan Staines 10. So the forwards doing the tackling for Brothers because that's where South are coming at them.
And South finished with the ball after that, and this is Phelan taking it up to his quarter line. South's running against this northeasterly breeze in the second session, leading by 10 points to 6. And here's Mescal.
Been a great first half, really, Arthur, when you think of the standard of play. We only had, 3 scrums in the first half and 10 penalties, and it just means that these two teams have controlled the ball very, very well, and it's been a match of the highest standard.
Mal Meninga. Muller. Switch back to French.
Not a good kick.
No, straight down Kilroy's throat up to the halfway mark. Back it comes to McElwain. McElwain can't get away from Muller, and assistance from French up top. Just inside South's territory. One try to each team, and this is Dwyer. Tackled by Meninga, and over the top, Chris Phelan. Staines in the dummy half position, a lock forward for Brothers, then Smith. Foster outside of him. Ferguson's there. Picked up by French in a good wrap-up tackle. Assistance from Tronk in the tackle.
Just as well, Ferguson couldn't get that ball away. The Magpies were in trouble if he did.
Cross then to Trevor Smith, up to halfway. Good low tackle from Muller. And John Elias was the other tackler in there. Now Bailey's there to distribute to his halfback, and then Smith. Chris Phelan moves in to wrap him up with John Elias over the top. Last tackle, across to Foster. And there's a little chip kick over the top. And Dwyer, using his height, pulled it down well, but then his pass goes astray.
Good variation there from Brothers.
Still a Brothers ball. That's Foster, and gathered by Ferguson. Ferguson, Carr comes at him with Mescal. Slightly different game from Brothers in this half, David.
Yeah, they're looking to get that ball out wide on every occasion, and they're trying to run South off their feet.
Costa Smith. Smith decided to go back the other way, caught by French.
Significant too. Greg Smith hardly ran in the first half, and that's the second time he's been caught with the ball.
30 metres out from South's line. Across to Foster. Foster sees a gap straight up the middle. Mescal was the tackler. Back this time to Smith. Further across then to Ferguson. Grogan's there. Back to Ferguson. Neatly done. Over the quarter line. Onto the ball comes Smith. The big man lost the ball. And it's Phelan in possession, picking it up the front row for Souths. Muller.
Let's see if Strubbock's had a few words to Brothers at the half-time break, and he's really going to have to stop this running from dummy half.
And this is Cullen, picked up by Ferguson. Yes, we'd think that South would try to exploit that ground making up the middle late in the first half particularly, wouldn't you? Just up the middle of the rucks or just wide of the rucks.
Yep, well, there's 3 from dummy half they've just had then. It's time to French.
Further across, Jackson in the centres. Can't get away from a good tackle from Tim Dwyer. His opposite number, the last tackle's on. Cullen kicks across for that line. Tricky one then for Klein. Good low tackle. Wallace, the tackler. Kilroy. Tackle by Muller. Over the top comes Wallace. That's the winger. Paul Wallace. Smith. Back to Grogan. Trying to come up the middle. Again, Wallace had knocked him off balance, and then Tronk finished the tackle. Bailey. Roach. Plenty of tacklers for Chris Roach. Including Meninga and French. Now it's Smith. Ferguson. Can't get away from Chris Phelan, but gets the pass away to Smith, all right, Greg Smith. And he's about 10 metres short of halfway. Final tackle. Bailey. Straight back to the kicker, Dwyer. Plenty of time to get the kick in. Well taken by Belcher on his quarter line. Got his winger Gittins there with him. Gets inside Dwyer, but can't get away from the next tackler, and that was Foster. Muller. Jackson. Cutting back inside. Can't get the pass away. He's caught by the jersey by Dwyer. The other tackler was Bailey. He lost a boot too, you can see in behind the hooker there, so take time to put that on. This is Chris Phelan up to halfway. Souths are leading by 10 points to 6. Across to French and now second row John Elias. Slipping it back to Tronk. Very neatly done from Elias. Back inside to Muller. Muller steaming up the middle, up to the quarter line. Got support there, but beautifully picked up then. Another support coming across, flicked across, loose ball. Gittins tries to pick it up. Anyone's ball picked up by McElwain. And the referee saying, play on. Well, South looking very dangerous then, and they really split Brothers up the middle.
Yeah, Johnny Elias showing that he can stand up in the tackle. Scott Tronk came off him beautifully, but I felt the pass from Muller to Meninga was forward, so probably their Brothers getting off the hook, and rightly so.
Foster, tackled by Meninga 10 metres out from his own line. This is Dwyer. You've seen that last occasion there, it got a little bit tricky with these jerseys. They look very alike, don't they?
Yeah,
and it was very hard to tell with players were close to each other. In fact, which player was it?
Yeah, not
which
a good
side
match.
did he belong to?
Yeah, not a good match, these two jerseys at all. And of course, Brothers have got an alternate strip, the one they use in the State League, which is blue with the white hoop. And quite confusing, not only for the spectators, but for the players. And I think the Brisbane Rugby League needs to have a look at these two jumpers, that they do really clash. And there's an opportunity there to have them changed.
Dwyer's kick finds touch about 12 metres short of the halfway mark. Russell Klein to take the second kick. Just short of halfway. Souths are leading by 10 points to 6 as it comes out to Bailey, Trevor Bailey, Roach. Chris Phelan had him by the ankle for most of the time, and it's Meskel who finishes the tackle. Now the hooker's on pass on to second row Smith, Greg Smith, Gary Smith. 3 of those Smiths out there. When in doubt, say Smith, they say. Now Bailey, 28 metres out. Foster, Ferguson, Jackson and Gary French, the tacklers.
We haven't seen Ferguson yet with his brilliant ball skills, and he'll be looking to come more to the fore as the game gets a little bit older.
There's the bomb on the final tackle. Belcher takes it well over his head, clears his line. Big Trevor Smith over the top. Paul Wallace, the winger's in the dummy half position, gets away from Smith, but knocked off balance by him. And then Grogan's the tackler, the final tackler, 10 metres out from South's line. Cullen to Gittins. Gary Smith round the ankles, and the other tackler in there. As soon as he gets away from the referee was Bailey. Now comes to French. Longer pass out wide to Meninga, who's actually standing on the wing position there, but can't get away from Dwyer, but gets a pass back inside. And so Souths have moved the ball away 30 metres out from their own line. Meninga slowly getting to his feet. It was Elias who played the ball onto Chris Phelan, and he sends it on to French. Now French sees that a bit of a gap up the middle and accelerates quickly. Oh, good ball into Cullen. Cullen's pass is straight for a minute, picked up by Tronk. Tronk steaming down the middle. Kilroy's there, and Tronk eventually pulled down as Grogan came in for the tackle.
Just looked the wrong way, Scotty Tronk.
Muller, Jackson, and there it goes. The kick across for the winger, taken by Klein. As the fullback it was flying through Belcher.
All right to talk after the event, but Peter Jackson had support out wide there, and Brothers were still spread pretty thin.
Across to McElwain. McElwain bouncing away from one tackle from Tronk, but then picked up by Cullen, the halfback, 8 metres out from his own line. That's Trevor Bailey into a dummy half position. Kilroy's about to go onto it. There's Kilroy. And front row, Chris Phelan, the tackler, with Elias. Now Bailey from dummy half, but Elias gets to him quickly. Brothers 20 metres out from their own line. Souths leading by 10 points to 6 as Ferguson shaped for a kick for a moment, then decided to run and gets it back again to Trevor Smith, the other prop forward. Caught by the ankle by Muller, and somehow or other gets the pass away. It comes on to Greg Smith, back again to Dan Staines, a lock forward. He's swooped on by South defenders, 12 metres short of the halfway mark. The last tackle, Bailey's there. Cross to Foster. Switch back to the kicker Dwyer and gets his kick in. Plenty of time for Gittins to get to it. So it's Ken Gittins, the left winger for South, to run it up. Beats the first tackle of Dwyer's, flipped out of that one, but Gary Smith over the top. Now Cullen from that dummy half position gives it to Belcher, and he sees a gap, quite loose there, Brothers, really, as he takes it up towards the halfway mark. Muller, Meskel, just wide of the ruck. Can't get away from that low tackle by Chris Roach. First man in for the tackle. Foster, second man. Now, Phelan. 9 metres inside Brothers territory. South's leading 10-6. One try to each team. Cullen. Foster. French, I should say. And now Meninga. Peter Jackson's in the dummy half position. And kicks to the line. A good kick from Jackson, but it's veering back now. And then it starts to run out. Excellent kick. It looked as if it was going to come back in field for a moment, and then suddenly turned the other way.
Jackson, they're getting the luck of the bounce, really. The ball just cutting back onto the... Here it is, from dummy half, Jackson. He did it in the first half without success, but this time just put it between Kilroy and Klein, and then the ball takes a big off break and goes within about 1 metre of the corner post.
Brothers ball, and it was Brothers ball, but round behind the scrum came Trump or Norm Carr, and so we'll have another scrum.
Trevor Bailey injured as that scrum collapsed. South haven't won a scrum in the match so far. The scrums at the moment, 5-0.
Kilroy's into the dummy half position for Brothers, and caught by Norm Carr, but gets away from him and is left to Muller and also John Elias. A very strong Kilroy, 10 metres out from his own line. Foster flipped across to Dwyer, running onto the ball well, and breaks through beautifully. Tim Dwyer up to the halfway mark he goes. He's got the full back to beat. He's got the support coming up alongside of him, but some good defence there. Picked him up 10 metres inside South territory. Roach is up into the dummy half position. It was Belcher, the man that was in for the tackle. On it comes to Klein, who's across there, slipping it back again to McElwain. Then it comes to the lock forward, switched across to Smith. Then it comes to Grogan out wide. Grogan looks for the support. They were covered, but gets it back to Kilroy. Kilroy looking across, gets that one-handed pass back to almost no one, picked up by Foster and dragged to the ground by Jackson. Some good sharp attack in from Brothers after that break from Dwyer. It was a clean break as it comes on to Dan Staines. Brothers trying to keep the momentum rolling, trailing by 4 points. The last tackle was there, and there's the kick from Greg Smith. And Belcher's lost the ball there, picked up by Meninga.
Meninga's in an offside position. Of course, he had no option but to take the ball. It bounced right into his arms. He was in front of Belcher, and Belcher's still on the ground there. Couldn't hold that one. He's held plenty in the first half. Here it is again. Good bomb, this one from Greg Smith. Puts it right up under the six. Gave plenty of time for his own team to put plenty of pressure on Belcher. Belcher actually got to it on his own though and should have held this one. Went up nicely, took the ball, but then there was plenty of pressure. The ball pops up to Meninga and a chance for 2 points for Brothers.
25 minutes left in the major semi-final. Tim Dwyer with this easy kick in front. Souths are leading by 10 points to 6. This is the major semi-final. A winner goes straight to the grand final, and the loser has another chance next week against Wynnum Manly. There's the kick from Dwyer, and the flags are up, so South lead Brothers 10 points to 8. Belcher restarts play for Souths. Down to Russell Klein. Very strong winger. Klein certainly took a lot to stop then. 26 metres out from his own line. Running onto the ball comes Gary Smith. Tackled by Carr, and the first man in there for the tackle was Phelan. Now, this is Ferguson. And flipped it away pretty well to Roach in the tackle. I don't know whether he got it past it or whether it just flew out of his arms. But now we have Bailey in possession, Brothers captain, and hooker 3 metres short of halfway. Dwyer's keen to get on with the play in the dummy half position. Foster's there, and Trevor Smith. Good tackle from Muller, again round the ankles, assistance from Elias. Dwyer. Gittins. And Gittins tackled by Dwyer. Belcher from dummy half. Trevor Smith round the ankles, but he gets a go on again, and Ferguson has to finish the tackle. Muller, Cullen, and Meskel. Souths are not getting the latitude in the forwards up the middle that they got in the first half, particularly in the last 15 minutes or so.
Brothers playing a lot better in the second half.
Across wide to Peter Jackson, to Elias. Turning it back again as it's a no one. Tronk picking it up. And Roach is in for the tackle of Tronk with McAlay. Norm Carr. Jackson. Big kick. Long kick indeed. Right down to Brothers' goal line. Kilroy. And plenty of tacklers there, including Muller. Aninga, and another player on the ground. Fight for possession. It's a penalty against Souths, not allowing Brothers to play the ball, and it's a penalty to Brothers.
Yeah, Eddie Muller penalised there, interfering in the play of the ball.
Souths leading by 10 points to 8. Tim Dwyer taking this kick for the line from his own quarter line, and finds touch on the halfway mark.
Wayne Bennett be a little bit concerned at the moment, only just in this match at this stage. Of course, they're in front 10-8, so Stradbroke could be more concerned, but I think Brothers are having the better of this second half.
And there's this tricky move they put on again. It's Klein coming from the far side wing. Dan Staines, the lock forwards in the dummy half position. Now Foster. Can't get away from Tronk. A good wrap-up tackle from young Scott Tronk. Bailey putting the pass back to Gary Smith coming through, and voluntarily tackled by Peter Jackson. Now Bailey and Ferguson. Brett Ferguson managing to get the pass away to Smith. Further across Foster. There's Dan Staines. Staines changing direction, stepping back inside. And of course South's a lot of problems. Kilroy. Foster, Greg Smith, and Roach. Roach deciding to run, dummies, gets going again, Chris Roach, only 22 metres out from South's line. Final tackles on, that's Grogan in the dummy half position. Dwyer, and up it goes, but not deep enough. Tricky one for everyone, and picked up by Ferguson, who's standing there waiting to give it to someone, finishes, goes back to Greg Smith, he couldn't get to the ball, knocked over without it. Loose on the ground, picked up by Grogan. Grogan switches it back again to Roach. Roach tries to pop it away to Klein, and Klein can't quite get there. Klein couldn't get there.
Of course, South's taking plenty of chance. They elected to let that one bounce when Brothers put up the high ball because it was a 6 tackle. They didn't want to make the mistake. Of course, the ball can bounce anywhere under those circumstances, and Brothers almost came up with a vital try. Here it is
Cullen.
again. The ball had come out wide. There's Robert Gregan. Brothers had plenty of opportunities out here. He decided to go back on the inside, Gregan. Flicked it back on the inside. Then the ball out to Klein, and he goes oh so close, Russell Klein. Puts his head down, tries to get through Meninga, and probably had it not been Mal Meninga, Russell Klein would have scored it.
Now Mescal's playing it for Souths, 18 metres out from their line as it switched back again to Belcher. Belcher to Meninga. Meninga holds up for a moment, gives it to Wallace on the wing, and Wallace well tackled by Bailey, the hooker. So 30 metres out from their own line, Souths, as Cullen sends it to French, and French kicks, puts the high one up down to the quarter line. Tricky one for McElwain. Joe Kilroy takes it, and underneath him is Peter Jackson, and drives him back in a good tackle. Jackson
Top match, Jackson.
lost the ball. The referee saying a penalty. What was that about?
Well, it looks like Eddie Wars decided that he stole the ball after their tackle was affected, and of course South complaining it initially. Norm Carr was making his first complaints, realised it was useless. There's a great tackle from Jackson, really buried Kilroy, and if you notice it was a little flick there from Peter Jackson, and Eddie Ward definitely correct.
Now Brothers have taken the penalty from the second kick. It's across to Bailey, and the move's on again as Bailey runs round behind that wall of players and is well and truly put to ground. It doesn't seem to achieve a lot, that move, David, does it?
No, it's only really worked one when there was a split in the early stages, and Russell Klein took the ball straight up the middle in the very early part of the game. The advantage Strudwick has got there, of course, he's got a number of variations to that move. It's not just one set move, and South's just unsure who the ball carrier is.
Trevor Smith to play it back to Bailey. Dan Staines up towards halfway. Yes, it is a better performance from Brothers in this second session, isn't it?
Of course, they've had the majority of possession too. South have had the ball down inside their own territory and been forced to kick pretty early.
Yeah, this is Bailey. Just looking at the scrums, we see the scrums 5-0 to Brothers, and the penalties go to Souths. No, Brothers dominate the penalties 8-6 as play comes across towards it's a penalty to Souths. To Brothers, I should say. Is it?
No,
sorry, it is South.
Penalty to South. The penalty's gone to the Magpies. Holding back there indicated by Eddie Ward. Let's have a look at the ball's gone up, and it was decided there that Tim Dwyer tackled Mal Meninga before he was in possession of the ball.
So it's Peter Jackson to take the penalty kick for the line. Brothers have won second half penalties 4-1 at this stage. 30 metres out from Brothers' line. The second kick to be taken by Souths. Wallace hands the ball to Eddie Muller and across to Mescal. Mescal trying to slip it back in the tackle, but well wrapped up by Roach and also Trevor Smith. Muller's there. John Elias picked up a few metres, Elias too, and took those three players, all pretty big men, with him. Across to Tronk. Short ball landed. Cullen flying through up alongside of him. The ball's been lost. It was in fact Wallace that came through up alongside of him to that blindside wing, and it's a Brothers ball 10 metres out. Kilroy's in the dummy half position. Dwyer sitting on the ground. The referee into saying that there was a knock on.
A little knock on there to play the ball. What an opportunity here for the Magpies. Loose head and feed. Only 10 metres out from the line. There's the scrums. South yet to win a scrum. 5-0 the scrums to Brothers.
And Souths have won their first scrums. It comes across to French. French shows the dummy and tried to go on his own again. Brothers were expecting him to flick the ball back, but he stayed with it. Belches into the dummy half position. Here's Mescal. Crunch. Swarms of Brothers defenders from Mescal because he can do so much damage close to the line, particularly 9 metres out. Muller's into the dummy half position, the hooker, and here comes Norm Carr. He's the lightest of the forwards there, but probably the most experienced.
South have got an opportunity on the left.
2 metres out. Muller's there, switched out wide to the left to French, and here it comes to Tronk, but held up by Foster with assistance from Kilroy.
Great tackle there from Henry Foster. That's a try saver and could be a match winner.
Very dangerous at that stage, South, particularly Tronk. On it comes to Cullen, switch it back to Meninga. But Meninga over the top of those players on the ground. Assistance for Ferguson, the main tackler, in for Meninga. Muller's there. Here's Cullen with the kick, the bomb. It's a bit deep. Too deep, just over the line. And so Brothers will bring it back to the quarter line for the tap kick.
Boy, what a relief there for Brothers. They had to sustain a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure from the Magpies, and it's a good opportunity now for them to go back on the attack. They've certainly had the greater part of possession in the second half, and they've had South stretch, but there's been some good defence from both sides that's kept the teams, let's say, trialless in the second half.
Now it's McElwain in possession. We have 15 minutes left in this major semi-final. The winner to advance straight to the grand final and the loser to play Wynnum Manly here next week as we see French running across field, bouncing out of tackles, including Foster's, gets it on to Cullen, out to Meninga. Meninga bumps into Staines, bumps away from him again and can't get going as other defenders come in to give Dan Staines a hand.
It's like bees to the honey pot when Meninga gets that ball. Brothers are coming from everywhere.
This is Phelan. Muller. Back it comes again. Carr going straight up the middle. Look at the ground that Normie Carr made in. 10 metres out. Running from dummy half. John Elias across the front of that run, getting it back again to Cullen. Cullen switches it out wide now to Jackson. Jackson out to Wallace. Wallace couldn't hold it. Loose on the ground. They finally picks it up, but the knock-on to be played.
Oh, that was the best chance South have had since they scored their first try. They're finally getting the ball out wide and they're standing up in tackles. Once again, John Elias with a good work there to get the ball out, and then South cleared the ruck very quickly. Wallace, a ball that he really should have taken. Not the best pass, but in these matches you've got to take it.
Brothers ball.
No, South have got it. Cullen.
There were two players in there. Cullen, of course, finished with that ball, so he did very well. Henry Foster looked as if he had it for a moment, and I was amazed to see Cullen with the ball.
Certainly Trevor Bailey won the strike in that scrum, and it was only the push from the Magpies that won it for him.
Muller. Across it comes then to the 5'8", then to John Elias, stepping, getting a pass back to Tronk, just held it Tronk and very nearly through. Half a metre out. Trevor Smith, the main tackler in there to stop Tronk going through the score. South putting enormous pressure. Here's French, pushes away from one tackler, gets it back inside now to Peter Jackson. Jackson trying to get it back to Cullen, but couldn't do so. 9 metres out from the line.
Great defence, Greg Smith, to turn Gary French back inside.
South's leading by 10 points to 8, are trying to seal this game now as Muller comes across the front, gives it to Meninga. Meninga's legs taken from under him as Roach was in there for the tackle. And also Staines. Now it comes across to Cullen. Cullen sends a long pass to Jackson. Jackson sends it across to Wallace, and Wallace puts the ball down. There's the try that South have been looking for, and South go to a lead of 14 points to 8.
Paul Wallace finished it, but it was a great pass from Wayne Cullen and also from Jackson. That's the first time on the 5th tackle that South have run the ball. They've always put the ball up in the air. Brothers, I think, just waiting for it. Have a look at Cullen. They decided to run it here. He cuts out Scott Tronk and picks up Jackson. Jackson perfectly into the gap, and then Jackson, I thought he could have scored it himself, but elected to pop it over the top to Paul Wallace. Wallace on the spot. He wasn't going to drop this one and puts it down for a 4-pointer. Here it is again. That was the 5th tackle. There's Eddie Ward with his hand up, signalling the 5th tackle. The ball this time spread by the Magpies, out on that right-hand side. Cut out Scott Tronk, out to Jackson. Jackson into the gap. Found Brothers in no man's land, really, and Wallace unmarked then, with Ken Gittins also in support.
Gary French attempting the conversion. He's kicked 3 out of 4. This one is 4 metres in from touch. French's kick, pretty good kick. Look at it, it's going right over, under, didn't get over the crossbar, not quite the legs. And so South's lead 14-8 still. Tim Dwyer restarts play for Brothers, running from the northern end of the ground, and this is the second half as it comes down to Wallace. Souths have scored 2 tries to 1 in their lead of 14 points to 8.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for the coaches to start swapping players around. Brothers have got a couple of fresh reserves to come onto the field, and I think it's only a matter of time before Strubbock uses them.
Look at Meskel stepping through that tackle. Up he goes, 30 metres out for his own line, or more than that, 10 metres short of the halfway mark. Meskel, a good run. This is Muller.
Geez, an improved player, Mark Meskel, played reserve grade for most of last year, but he's really come of age.
And now Chris Phelan over the halfway mark.
Brothers waiting for him.
And South with all the confidence now. Muller into the dummy half position. Said we'll keep going straight up the middle.
Dan Staines had his back to Eddie Muller as he took off from dummy half.
Across to Cullen, threading it on to Jackson, then on the blind side, and Jackson stepping and just ankle tap then by the lock forward, lost a boot.
Once again, I think there was indecision over those jerseys. Jackson an opportunity to pass, but he wasn't sure who it was in behind him.
Now, Elias is there. French. Oh, and that was charged through by Roach, bursting through, loose on the ground on the halfway mark. Wallace back to pick it up for Souths. 6 tackles to go.
Well, that's Chris Roach's forte, of course. He does it very well from his own old rugby union days. Did well to charge it down and also chased it.
Gittins. Can't get away from Dwyer. And over the top, Klein and Ferguson. Belcher. And the halfbacks there, just Tronk. Got Tronk 10 metres inside Brothers territory. Souths are leading by 14 points to 8. Injured player across the other side of the ground is in fact, well, he's not injured, he's putting his boot on, and that's Peter Jackson.
Second time it's been off in the match, and Souths can't afford Jackson down.
Muller. Across to French, further across to Meninga. Meninga steps and pushes away from one player, tries to get it back to Elias, couldn't hold the ball, gathered by Greg Smith for Brothers. Norm Carr got injured somehow or other. He must have, I don't know how he got injured in there. Norm Carr, he went back and crashed to the ground as holding his ribs, I think the lower part of his ribs, as Tim Dwyer has it for Brothers.
Important time now. Brothers must hit back. Only 8 minutes to go in the match, and Souths have got a lead of 6 points.
Kilroy.
That's what's going to take. Some brilliance of Joe Kilroy. You saw Tim Dwyer set Brothers alight around about a half an hour ago, and they need someone now, a touch of brilliance to really get things going.
Foster. Elias and Tronk the tacklers, the 2 second rowers. 15 metres short of the halfway mark. Crossed into Smith, further across to Staines, Dan Staines and Dwyer. Wrapped up by Peter Jackson. Assistance from Muller. Last tackle. Back to Smith. Got that left-footed kick in, and it's out on the full. The kick by Gary Smith. The scrum to pack down inside Brothers territory.
Been a replacement in the Brothers side. Steve Carter is on. We'll pick up who's replaced in just a moment.
Steve Carter's wearing number 20 jersey.
It's come up into the front row. Could be Brett Ferguson.
And the scrum. The penalty. I'm just looking to see who was in that front row. But Ferguson is off the field.
Yep.
Yes, Ferguson is off. Penalty to Brothers. Steve Carter, the new player on the field. This is Tim Dwyer kicking for the line.
John Elias has just left the field, and Ash Lumbie's come on.
Number 9, Elias is off, and Ash Lumbie, we'll give you his number in a moment. That penalty kick takes place 10 metres. He's wearing 17 jersey. Lumbie, there he is there. And the moves on from Brothers as Bailey takes it and slips it back to Foster. Foster can't get away from Phelan, and Tronk over the top. 12 metres inside South's territory. Brothers desperately need a try. Here's Klein. Runs into Lumbie and company. French, the other tackler. Look at Bailey there. Back to Smith, the 5'8". Then to Grogan. Grogan trying to get past Phelan and company and Wallace, but it's Phelan who puts him to ground 22 metres out from South's line. And Kilroy. Norm Carr and Lumbie the tacklers. Bailey switched across then to Foster, and here's the new player Carter onto the field, 10 metres out.
Another replacement by Strudwick. Ray Bomber's on and Trevor Smith off.
Ray Bomber on and Trevor Smith, the front row forward, off. We'll pick up that number in a minute as it comes back to Foster, and there goes the bomb. A lot of pressure on Gittins and takes it well,
Penalty,
the South winger.
Penalty gone to Brothers. Henry Foster still on the ground in back play.
Yes, I didn't see that. He got hit just after he kicked apparently, and so it's a penalty to Brothers.
Henry Foster now gaining attention, and Wayne Cullen getting a lecture from Eddie Ward. Of course, the ball landed on the full and in-gill area, therefore the penalty comes 5 metres out into the field of play. Tim Dwyer with the ball. Brothers undecided what to do.
South leading by 14 points to 8, and we've only got 5 minutes or so left in the game. McElwain has it. Now Bailey. Another one of the moves. Bailey is there. And it's given across to Gary Smith. Second row forward, 5 metres out from South line. Brothers desperately need points. 5 minutes left in the game. and Roach runs from dummy half. Chris Roach. Bailey's up there to the dummy half position this time. Foster's waiting for it. There's Foster, switching it across to Smith. And the ball lost as that player came racing through. The new players on the field with Carter. Penalty to Souths.
Yeah, Trevor Bailey, he was offside. The ball had been knocked forward, and Trevor Bailey, coming from an offside position, certainly interfered with the play, if not actually getting the ball himself. Here it is again. Try a little short pass, this one. Smith tried to hold it up. The ball got knocked down there. And, of course, Trevor Bailey well in front of Steve Carter, and he had to be in an offside position.
Just over 4 minutes left in the game. Peter Jackson taking this penalty kick. Peter Jackson taking...
Chris Roach has left the field.
There's Jackson's kick.
Looks like Bly Davidson on.
Finds touch about 12 metres or so out from the 10 metres or so out from South's line. Souths are leading by 14 points to 8 as they take play up to the quarter line. Now Cullen moves up into the dummy half position behind Muller, who was obviously injured in that tackle. And Cullen runs from there. Eddie Muller slowly getting to his feet. The strapper's coming out to him. Out comes on to Meskel, and Meskel charges into the defence and loses the ball, but picked up then by Foster in an offside position, and it's a penalty to Souths.
Stealing the ball there from Henry Foster, and of course Eddie Ward. That's one of his pet hates. You can't take the ball away when Eddie Ward's around. He should have been a policeman, I think, Eddie Ward, because he certainly doesn't permit it. Some referees will allow it to go, but certainly not that one. That was definitely a steal the ball incident. Some of them are a little bit each way, and a penalty there for South, and they've got an opportunity now to shut this game down with only 3 minutes to go.
Peter Jackson finds touch 12 metres short of the halfway mark. South's leading by 14 points to 8. 3 minutes to go. Now Chris Phelan takes it up. Swarm of defenders there, including the new boys on the field. Davidson and Baumba, Muller and Meskel. Crunch. Souths can smell the grand final coming up. They haven't missed many grand finals in the last 7 years. I think they've only missed one, Souths. They haven't won many either.
They haven't won many, only won one on recent years, and that was right on the hooter. But here it is, Souths can march straight into the finals here. Henry Foster stealing it again. Has he got a hold of it?
Lumby saying it's my ball. leave it go, Foster. He said it's mine. And so now Muller giving it back again. Well, Lumby finishes with the ball again, and the knock on to be played. But
yes, been a great game, this one, Arthur. One of the highest standard games I think we've seen. Only a couple of minutes to go. Gary French, Wayne Cullen, I thought have had terrific games. Norm Carr's been courageous. Was injured early in the match. Second half, I thought Scott Tronk had a really top match in the second half. And there's another one against the head, that one for South. Chris Phelan and Mark Meskel have also had top games. But the man for South that I really think did the job, the Winfield Cup man of the match, there he is, the big league man of the match, Peter Jackson. Outstanding young centre. I thought he had one of his best games today. Defence, he was in everything, Peter Jackson. He made 11 tackles even out wide, Peter Jackson, and also some of his great running in attack. So good work from Jackson and a good effort from South. They look like running out winners.
About a minute and a half left. South 30 metres out from Brothers line. Norm Carr to play the ball back. There's Belcher, the fullback. South's intent on holding the ball. That's all they've got to do, leading by 14 points to 8. And they should go straight to the grand final in a fortnight's time.
It's been a knock-on, though, isn't it? Last chance for Brothers. Only a minute and a half to go. Been some good efforts from Brothers, too. You can't get a good match without having two good sides. Great defensive efforts. Trevor Smith, while he was on there, made 19. Brett Ferguson also in the front row, 14. Roach, 16. Dan Stain, 16. So there's been some good defensive efforts. There's also been some very strong ones. I thought his opposing number in the centres, Tim Dwyer, had a top game, too, and Brothers not dead yet.
That's Bly Davidson, one of the replacement players on the field, as Smith sends the pass across then to Staines. Staines then to Carter, and Carter almost looked as if he was in front, but must have been a photo finish. Close up towards the halfway mark now. The teams that Brothers will be going on next week to play Wynnum Manly in the preliminary final here at Lang Park. A lot of football here next week. The first game starts at 9:30 and finals right through until the preliminary final starting at 3:15 next week. Just a little bit later next week. Joe Kilroy in possession, just over the halfway mark. Half a minute to go. South's leading by 14 points to 8, and they've scored 2 tries to 1 as it switched across to Greg Smith. Sees his support was covered, gets going. The pass goes back to no one. Picked up by Bly Davidson. The last tackle, Davidson to play it back. There's the kick coming from Dwyer.
It's a beauty.
And pushed back. Meskel picked it up, and it's South's in possession. And that should be about the ball game now.
Yeah, that should be the ball game. Greg Smith and Henry Foster have also played very, very well for Brothers this afternoon. They're going to do it tough against Wynnum, though.
And that's Gittins, and there's the full-time hooter sounding. And the game's all over. Souths have beaten Brothers by 14 points to 8. scoring 2 tries to 1. Tries for South scored by Eddie Muller and Paul Wallace. Try for Brothers by Shane McElwain. In the goal-kicking department, French kicked 3 out of 5 for Souths, and Dwyer 2 out of 2 for Brothers. The first scorers in the match, 6 for Souths, it was Gary French, and 5 for Brothers, Shane McElwain. 6 and 5, the first scorers, Souths and Brothers respectively. In the scrums favoured Brothers 6-3. The tight heads finished at 2-all. The penalties went 10-9 to Brothers, and the scrum penalties 2-1 to Souths. So that's it. Souths have won the major semi-final and now advanced to the grand final in a fortnight's time, beating Brothers by 14 points to 8. Now here's your last chance to see the tries in the try of the series competition, and here they are.
Who won the player of the match?
Peter Jackson.
Oh, Peter Jackson.
I don't think they can. Go forward.
Water failure in the street, and so I plonked some hairspray on it to sit it down, and then everything's gone wrong since then.
Is that all right? Yeah.
There, I suppose.
Stand by.
And just a final reminder that entries for that try of the series competition close on Friday. So please get your entries in as soon as possible, and we'll announce the result next Sunday night in this program. Now let's have a look at next Sunday's games, where we see that Souths in reserve grade will be playing Redcliffe. Souths are playing Redcliffe in C grade, and the same teams playing in reserve grade, Souths and Redcliffe, with Brothers to play Wynnum Manly in the main game starting at 3:15, the major preliminary final. That's all tonight. Thanks very much for being with us. Good night.